part of the rankings by now. You have to say it like that. With doing roster changes, with getting somebody like Dennis from Sprout recently, changing up the op role yet again, at least what Xantari said on stream, those changes might inflict some damage. I'm gonna put it that way. And with now we're starting off, Big Clan puts the utility into the hands of Gob and Tizian, while Sprout sends a train down to the connector and one towards middle.
This is a map that generally looks better for the CT side, or for the T side of Big, sorry. They're actually not very good on the CT in general. So they need to get off to a good start. And by losing Dennis in the opening round, it's never going to be good. They have to take a lot of long-range battles with those Glocks in play. The one thing you can say for them is they've got a little bit of a lurk down towards B, and Tizian's heard them rotating up to A, playing passive on B, so he maybe has a chance to sneak up on them.
And most likely the players in toilets, well, more likely only Speedy, realizing what's coming towards him. A bit more of a passive approach, needs to win the duel, but taps and rips his head off. And Sprout got to play with 4, and a highly wounded Faven doesn't make the situation any sort of better. Over on long duels being played out, the bomb's still waiting, and I'm not quite sure if they spotted Gob with the C4 on his back, but I could imagine this is now becoming a bit problematic. Do Sprout have the read on this? Because if you take a look at Tizian, he's fairly advanced on B already.
He found the kill onto Faven just around the smoke and has got the control over. The one thing to be said, though, is that Searson is still able to watch the cross. He's not smoked off completely just yet, and they push out a little bit early before the smoke balloons. There's even a gap in it for him to play around, but not given any opportunities or not capitalizing on them. It's left into a 3v3 retake with Tizian below 50 HP, so a little bit of an upside, but Big Clan are dug in and now able to play off each other and just wait for Sprout to push on forward.
Yeah, talking about pushing on forward, there comes one, though, from Tizian onto Searson. The short player is now identified, and Mermot, good luck, have fun with that, but the kit on his back is not going to give him the advantage he would have had over armor. Tizian, though, wallbanging him anyway. Big Clan with the first over on the T site. And when we quickly talk about this map here, Mitch, I think a thing we need to state beforehand, it is, if I'm not totally wrong, the third most CT-sided map in the recent map pool in the recent days. If we go for the last 3 months. So Sprout now taking something along the lines, especially this being their map pick, of 9 to 10 rounds. This is what I would personally call ideal and the right thing.
Yeah, for sure. I think 9 to 10 is where they need to finish. The one caveat to it is the Big have had pretty weak CT side performances in general. But again, we did talk about the caliber of teams they were facing against. Yeah. You're expecting to see good T sides from the likes of Astralis and North on a map like this. When you come into a matchup against Sprout, I don't think they'll quite be able to weigh in as heavily. So I'd even lean more towards 10 on the CT side in order to give them the better chance when they swap over.
That's very true. Now Faven pushing a little further. Tizian is actually gonna be denied by Speedy a little afterwards. Control in the hands of the Sproutlings, and an AK brought into the hands of the IGL of the green side. Big most likely did not expect such a push to come in, and this makes them a bit of an uncomfortable feeling. They missed out on the opportunity to now grab an easy 2-0. And Gob identified as well. Keto might be the perfect supporter, and then suddenly it would be just nothing else than a 2v4. Big Clan could collapse, with Searson now going through toilets as well. The frag should and must be found anytime soon, as Gob reloads. It's going to be one tapped, and Big only down to 2.
They've at least got utility on those final 2 players, but the problem is, as they push towards the bomb side, at best they find an even situation of 2 versus 2. The weapons in the hands of Sprout definitely aren't weak enough to give Big any kind of advantage here. Flash goes down as a support for Keto. Spring out from Spitty, and he takes down Dennis, taps into Fall to Murbit as well. And look, Sprout walking away with that second round is so important for them. They needed to have a good start on the CT side to start smacking Big Clan back into place. And with that round under their belt and 2 AK-47s carried forward for free, they're in a pretty decent position to get out a couple more rifles and really, well, with Big Clan going for a force buy here, I was going to say follow through on a 2-1 and then face the full buy, but Big Clan decide they want to go straight in with those aggressive decisions, taking the scout out alongside the pistols.
Yeah, funny-wise, the funny story I can tell you right here, Sprout is only winning 16% of those second round breaks where you would think like you have lost a pistol and force up. It's only like 1 or nearly, let's say 2 out of 10 rounds where they obtain such control. Now they did it against Big. and this puts them on the back foot. I mean, especially as we know from the new economy, right? When you are winning the first and then lose the second, you're actually in a much worse situation than the other way around. Sprout, I mean, if you take a look at it, this is a quite decent setup. They got that UMP on Faven, Sirison playing that MP7 so he could save up for the AWP. Otherwise, brilliant rifles, brilliant utility, and everything looks like it couldn't necessarily be better for the Sprout side of things.
The thing for Big as well you have to look at is, in general, when they receive the opening death, they follow through on 15% or less of the rounds where that happens.
It's not a lot.
So far, Sprout have found both openings. And in the pistol, it can be easier to recover those just because it's a little bit of a more hectic style of round. But when you come into these buy rounds where there's a little bit more structure in play, or even up against the Deagles where you can be caught off guard, it's not a spot that you want to be giving Sprout early opening advantages. So now Big, as they come in with Deagles themselves, a scout, they're going to rely on a little bit of a slower play. You got to allow Tabson to find opening damage, not even necessarily picks. Then the pistols can have a much easier time in the late round.
100% agreed on that. I couldn't have said any better. And with now Tabson tapping away nearly Keto, he's down to 30. Should consider to give the AUG maybe to Sirison. It would be a little bit more useful in his hands, but he's going to stay close range with the MP7. And the Big clan more focusing, I mean, still towards middle, if I see it correctly. Yeah, Tabson boosted up there. They could go down to connector anytime soon, as we see Xantares just waiting for a flank to come in from Sprout and then backstamp. That's not happening, and the artifice of Xantares now turns into an aggression. Either way, not finding anything. In 50 more seconds, that's not so ideal for Big.
Yeah, we said they want to play a slower round, but this is certainly not the kind of round they had in mind. They're going to be forced into making pretty hectic decisions, pushing towards a bomb site that they have very little information on. Searson catches them out with 2. And now the recovery is... Oh what? My god, it's on Xantares! What's that with the Deagle?
That should have never ever happened in Sprout. Suddenly on the back foot, this bomb is going to hit the side anytime soon, and Xantares with 2 might make it a 3rd or a 4th. As we already see Dennis back in bank, he might be able to strike onto Murbit once he uncautiously crosses. Talking about that, good night Murbit. And so it's only Fave and young Joseph Bauman to take down Free. Seems like an impossible task, but if there's a man you want on the server to do that hits him, tagged by that scout, most likely not ideal. And 2 AKs left for Big, 140 points of health, and Joseph does the best he can do, and that's retreat, pray, hope, and breathe through, because this turns sour quite swiftly for Sprout, and they hate it.
I mean, this is a pretty awkward situation, you could say. Sprout find all the advantages to open up that round, and yet still, Big are able to pull it back on Xantares, spamming away on a Deagle, completely tearing them apart. It's a spot that you don't expect to see Sprout giving away, just because they're on the CT side up against a team that has very little time, and you know that they're going to be coming into this respecting their opponents, so you would expect a little bit of more passive play. But I think what happened there is when you saw the engagement coming in on short, the other players peeked out to try and assist him, and it didn't quite go their way.
And that's the last thing you want, really, because the problem that will now occur here, Mitch, is in case Sprout loses this round, which doesn't seem very unlikely, unfortunately, though they found the entry, they will be pretty much economically reset, and then Big is on the right track. Sirson down, and that's the most pivotal weapon already grabbed. Gob and Co. in a sort of ideal situation. In case nobody is stepping up massively for Sprout, I think things will turn quite uncomfortable anytime soon, and the sinister times might start, because to once more calculate that through, we're talking about a second losing bonus, so 1.9, pardon that. Big Clan will then be on 1-2-3, and then the follow-up 2.4, 1.9 plus 2.4, if my maths are correct, and you are allowed to correct me, is 4.3. Yes, around 4.3, so it's still not ideal when we consider all the stuff CTs needs to buy, and then Big Clan gained a good bit of momentum as well.
I think the problem right now that we're seeing is those opening 2 rounds, Sprout find opening duels, okay, you can give that over to them, but moving into those last 2, Big Clan completely demolishing them early round, or indeed just making massive recoveries. And it's a little bit it's a little bit worrying, especially you don't have too much of a problem getting the picks there with the op, and yet Big Clan's still able to push in, find themselves bomb plants, 3 men left alive, assuming they don't lose Zantares or Godby to the bomb, and you can see they're already bailing out of there. You should find this economy get very stacked for the T side, and the future for Sprout, with what we're talking about, them needing kind of 9-10 rounds, preferably towards the upper end of that, in order to have a decent chance when they swap over, it's looking a little bit bleak. And again, you may think, if people are just joining us, that yeah, Big Clan don't win this map. Why would they pick it? They're 6-0. They're playing against really good teams and having super tight games, with the exception of the North one. I mean, 16-14 against Astralis is not a bad way to lose on Overpass.
Not at all. And I mean, especially considering, right, a man we want to watch throughout this best of 3 series go ham is most likely Xantares. Over his entire career, he's achieved an online rating of over 1.2. That's absolutely nasty, and Sprout might fall short to that anytime soon once the big guys are really entirely waking up. This round, I think we don't really need to talk about too much here, Mitch. 1 AWP to save the day. That would be Searson's heroic play of the day. I don't really see it happening, though.
No, I don't imagine we'll see too much from him. Maybe a couple of kills, but as soon as he's spotted, Big can just rotate over, assuming, or indeed, you know they're going to have a good read in the buy. They've got Godby with the big brain, so they'll know that there shouldn't be any more rifles. They can rotate down and just avoid him completely. The only thing is, if he finds a pick and they go for a trade, Keto is up close. He's got the CZ in hand. He could swing out and really just destroy them. The CZ up close can be a dangerous thing.
Oh, and this looked even like could have been a collateral. Talking about it, Keto gets 2. Those frags are somewhat putting Big Clan in a very uncomfortable state. You see the player back on long desperately trying to get the AWP. Mermit is just not close enough yet. Is he able to get it? By now he sees it. He's grabbing it, and now he could become the hero the Sproutlings need. Long is under his control, but Gob instantly calls the B rotation, and this might be the best idea for Big, because A side is swamped with opponents, and it would have been becoming quite hot over there, but now the bomb approaching slowly and steady, and the op, the only real tool to deny any further access, is over there on long.
I think one of the major problems for Sprout as well is that they're playing against Big, a team that's going to have a very nice read on this. They know the op is down. They know there's rifles that can be picked up by the CTs. So they instantly go down to B, knowing that if they stick around, they're likely to roll into players that are going to be stacked up, at least with weapons. They will have already rotated up. You fast hit B, they'll probably focus a little bit more towards picking those weapons up and carrying them forward to the next round. You get a free round on the board. And really, you know, ideally, yeah, you don't want to let them save that up. You don't want to let them save the AK, but you've already expended the majority of your resources that you would use to hunt, losing your Mac 10, which is the player that, in this situation, if it was a 5v3, would be roaming around looking for kills, as Favin was on the CT side. And so a reasonable... Oh, Zantares dies at the bomb. Yikes. So they actually do enough damage to take him down, keep him around.
That's a little unfortunate. In the end, though, I would personally say that right now we might experience a bit of a... Maybe it comes down to this round. If this round is once more falling down, then the momentum is quite good on the lads of Big Clan. But otherwise... I mean, one thing I wanted to point out, this domestic sort of duel, I think, doesn't exist here for me, because Big is not playing any domestic leagues anymore. I mean, surely Dennis switching over to Sprout is an aspect, apart from Sprouts to Big, is an aspect to count in, but otherwise, I don't think it matters too much.
I'm curious in this round as to what Big go for. Considering they know that there's heavy weapons saved over, you're going to be facing the strongest buy so far with full utility. Oh, peeking towards Monster. Gubby's got the feet of Favin, taken down to 10 HP. And I mean, this is the player that we're looking towards on the Sprout side as definitely the strongest individual, and he's already out of the round.
That's not what you want to see. Sprout, though, very B-focused. You see the players towards Connector and Toilet ready to shift over once needed. A perfect trade by Xantares. With Keto making that noise, does he get the frag? Yes, he gets one, but Tapson instantly reacts right. It's always the trades that work so well. It's somewhat incredible. And Speedy, who waits back behind the barrels once more. Absolutely astonishing. Sirison trying to now turn this one around as he gets closer with the op, finds the first frag. Dennis is out, and so his ex-teammate gotta say goodnight. Tapson might be spotted as well. And Searson does it and gives Sprout another round, but it was way too tight.
Absolutely. It came right down to the wire. But realistically, those are the kind of rounds we expect to see Sprout winning coming into this matchup, and they are definitely outclassed in a way by Big Clan's experience and higher level play in general. But if they can continue to win rounds like that, it still will take a toll on them. Although they'll get rounds built up, you already see a UMP having to come out there for Spitty to allow for the utility alongside him. And utility on a map like this is definitely going to be important. If you're playing down towards B, you need the likes of the Molotovs early on to stop them pushing. You see one already deployed by Favin. But Searson's been lit up early on, and Favin decides to take an aggressive hold down towards Monster.
Right.
But they know that it's going to be a B hit. At least they know it should be, considering the fact that they've pushed completely up on A. Keto's got that intel. Searson can now back off, rotate down, play Heaven maybe, or just hold the connector, I guess, at this point, because Keto's going super aggressive. So he'll have to anchor on A in case they rotate up through con.
And that's where it gets very uncomfortable, because Tapson, look how he moves through. The flashbangs were perfect. Can't find the second, but the info on Murbit is there, and he himself tacked down. Big Clan took the Porsche, and they directly went left lane Autobahn on that one over here on the B site. With the AUK reigning supreme against Keto, Searson would probably do himself a favor by running away as fast as possible. This is what he does, and Gop's mastermind plan once more functioned as we know from him. A thinking machine, if that is a legitimate term, and in the meantime, Xantar is dying. And this is one aspect Big Clan does not want, and that is once more the majority dead, because the reinvestment in those rounds, we saw it right there. Big Clan was, once we take a look at the scoreboard, getting 3 in a row, but what was the price? Twice they have lost 60% of the team's economy or of the team's weaponry. So reinvesting always costs a good bit. Therefore, you start to become into this problematic scenario that your entire system collapses so swiftly.
And in that round, one thing I'd like to point out was that Sprout, when they went for the aggression with Searson and Keto on A, I feel like the right play there, I was a bit confused when I saw Keto continue to aggress, because Searson's then stuck. He can't leave Keto because they could come up through connector, so they don't get any heavier stack down towards B. As soon as they pushed up and spotted no one was there, I would have preferred to see them back off, maybe see Searson solo anchor the A bomb side and hold down longer range angles with that op to see if he can find info and picks as they push forward, and then play passive on A after finding one or spotting at the intel while his teammates rotate up. And see Keto rotate down either through connector to try and get a flank on the short guys, or just safe down through the CT spawn, play in Heaven, and see what damage they can get done from there. Support the B bomb side a little bit more, but instead they get the info, okay, the push is coming to B, but they don't get any further assistance there. And so when it comes through, Big Clan 5v3 on that site, completely tear them apart with the aggression that came through on the Mac 10 as well, catching them by surprise.
Yeah, indeed, and Sprout didn't expect that one to come in. Once more, we see Searson on the AWP, and the quad nade is, this is always where you want to see what are they up to. And with that being said, the only thing that's really coming up is Searson taking out Dennis. Partial success with those USPSs. Now aware of something going Monster. Major failure by the Molly. The HEs don't do anything. And so it's time to push through as the mortar attack has been denied. Speedy found meanwhile. And you see yet again, Mitch, the bomb, important, the AWP back on the A side, it cannot support. In case they're not fast enough, Big right here, that's going to be serious on having the perfect view on the site. As he approaches, things get a little hairy right now for Big.
They do indeed. As Favin goes down, though, at least something's recovered. Murbit's caught in the open. Gobby was flashed, but it dissipated just in time, and leaving Searson with an op. He's going to try to save, but at this point, I mean, they can afford to try and hunt him down, take that weapon out of play. They hear him running away, but he's posted up at this point, and I think as he's been allowed to back off into the angle, you have to leave him alone. Tapson continues to aggress and falls for it. And at this point, you know, their economy is kind of low. They don't want to be losing so many players, but they keep on going. Xantaras goes down. Gobby knows himself and Tizian have to save these weapons. So Searson should be guaranteed that AWP through to the next round. But, I mean, with so much time left on the bomb as well, I didn't even notice. But if Searson had a kit, this would now be in a position that he could go for it and have a reasonably good chance of winning. So big mistakes by Big Clan there. I think that definitely could have gotten out of hand. One thing to comment on though, I like how they pushed down Monster. As soon as they were spotted, they bailed back, expecting something like the nade stack to come through from Sprout. And then as soon as the frag grenades went down, they reaggressed forward. That was nice to see them at least being a little bit conscious of some of the tricks that Sprout were trying to pull.
Yeah, I mean, some German trickery comes from time to time. The German mortar fire was not hitting the fellow countryman in the end, which is, of course, very satisfying for Big, 6-2. And as you said in the beginning, if you just looked at the page, right, if you just looked at the HLTV page and said, okay, they've played this 6 times and didn't win it once, it's going to be a 6-0 for Sprout, isn't it? But as you said, the tied losses, they've shown us that Big is somewhat capable of winning those games. And like, especially as you pointed out, 14-16 against Astralis, that is just nearly a win. So Sprout got to step up their game quite massively, especially here on the CT side. The balance on Overpass is like 55% of the rounds won on CT, 45 on T. So it shows a clear tendency around the competitive scene, and especially Sprout right here. They want more than just 2.
Well, I think anybody on the CT side of Overpass will want more than just 2. It's certainly a wish, but this is the real opportunity. If they don't do it now, the 9-6 we were talking about is completely out of the question, and then we're almost guaranteed that Big have done enough. But again, considering the fact their CT sides are usually weak, but they play against good T-sided teams, I'm not too sure how much I believe in Sprout's T-side ability to pull back if they end up on like an 8-7 half, especially if it's 8-7 in favor of Big Clan, which at this point is quite likely, if not an even more one-sided scoreline. Great spray down by Murbit though, so we're into a 5v3 and a great opening for Sprout.
Oh, but Centaurus with 1-1 tap. Seems like he failed to smoke there. And I was a little too aggressive. Immediately punished by Faven, and Big is now suddenly down to 2. Gob and the newcomer Dennis, more likely the fresh blood of the Big site, now trying to approach that B site immediately. He's on the op, as we already heard, playing the op more regularly, but Sirison up on the pedestal, got the perfect view against them all, sees the body slowly coming around the corner, and Gob should not stand a chance. In the meantime, deals damage, but his place has been shown.
Yeah, and that round a little bit of over-aggression. I mean, you saw the players in short. It's an unfortunate thing. They lined up easy spray down going through. But after that, Zantara's getting aggressive on the site was really the big mistake for Big Clan. I hate... the one thing I dislike about either analyzing or commentating big games is whenever you say big mistake, it's like, oh, there, yeah, I didn't intend
Comedy
that pun.
genius.
Absolutely.
Comedy genius.
It's going to happen a lot, but it was a large mistake, and I think
Yeah.
it cost them heavily.
A
Zantara's getting
tremendous
aggressive
one.
through the smoke. It's unusual to see them playing that kind of individual, not supporting each other going through, but hopefully that'll be a little bit of a wake-up call that, you know, they can be punished by Sprout if they make those mistakes, so they got to keep their clean playstyle up. This is a round, though, where you don't really expect too clean of a playstyle. It's all just going to be looking for those duels, looking to get a couple Deagle headshots in if you can.
And in the meantime, talking about those Deagle headshots, not there yet. Speedy just found the German meat grinder in this case, and the Fleischwolf, taking them all down one by one by one. No real issue, and Big, they once more face a not very ideal economic situation. I mean, a story we, by the way, have seen so often in the previous rounds where you and I talked about. They just can't bring through too many players, so you can't really accumulate too much of those green dollar bills. And Big now, no AWP, no aggressive op we're seeing, though Gob on the SG is going to be the very interesting tool indeed. And let's see what the German mastermind has in plan to keep Big up on a big margin, very possibly for double digits on a T site.
Searson's been pretty impressive so far for Sprout. 3 for 1 on opening duels. He's been lit up a little bit and left in a lot of clutch situations where he's not been able to follow through. So a lot of the kills, he is sitting on 12 for 4, but a lot of those have been kind of, you would say, low impact in the specific rounds, but also because he's managed to consistently punish Big for over-aggressing and trying to hunt down the final 1 or 2 remaining weapons, it has left them in the position where they had to ego in the previous round. That's why they're struggling so much. So He's definitely having an impact within the game already. Great flashbang, but Faven only able for one.
It would have been looking for a little bit more, and so we see Xantares, who down 49, might be eating the grenades only a little bit. This seemed somewhat artless from Big Clan, yet either way, the bomb should hit the ground over B anytime soon. And that's a clear indicator, a little bit of a missed HE that could have made a difference, possibly. Xantares doesn't feel too happy and welcome planting over on B. He'll do it anyway. They're gonna give it a go. Sprout gotta retake this with 2 kits on both Keto and Speedy, and also a Searson flanking around. Is Tapson ready for that is the question. Is overall Big capable of defending that B site in a magnificent way? We know it. Searson sneaks around slowly, instead he comes around the corner. Tapson is just millimeters away from him, but he's gonna be taken down, and Xantares over short, reigns supreme. 1 more to go would be Speedy, and a German IGL, he falls. Big, remain strong.
I mean, nothing to be done there on the retake. Peeking out with a flashbang when they hadn't cleared close left. That's going to cost them pretty heavily as Searson goes down. One less angle to worry about. They can peek over towards short, no problem. Exposing themselves to monsters. They've now got that control. It's an awkward one for Sprout to lose because at this point, you know, Big Clan have at least shut them down and left them in an 8 to 7 half at best. And even that recovery will require them to double the rounds consecutively, which so far has proven to be quite an issue. They've only got 1 more full buy as well, so if they lose this, it's likely to be 9 to 4 in favor of Big. So a really important round for them, starting with the aggression from Faven.
There you go.
Even though he does the damage to Tapson, he gets dropped straight away.
Oh, but then immediately the refrag from Speedy through the smoke. That's the way to do it. Gob has the read on it. He's saying like, nah, not today, Keto. You can do it another time when you feel like it. And so, Big is staying somewhat arcane with their actual plans. Sprout has a main focus over towards B. The only real obstacle is Searson. And you could start to be a little worried about him as he does stays back and towards playground. He hears the steps, and you gotta be ready for one hell of a peek. Realize he's already to his left, Dennis! He got his Guardian Angel on his side. That was Gob, and otherwise things could have turned quite sinister, but Sprout, they don't find it, Mitch. They simply can't find it right now.
But the one problem here, Spiddy's actually started to rotate to CT. He made a lot of steps. They probably think that that's the solo B player at this point with 2 players left alive. But they spot out Merbit nonetheless. Always conscious of their angles. Antara's up on 15 kills right now.
Right.
It's all onto Spiddy, who they heard going to CT, so he's peeking that angle and the headshot. Sprout just can't get any leeway here. Every time they try to make a play, they try to make a decision that a lot of the time would work for them up against Big. They're ready for it. They're completely catching them off guard and now likely to have 9 on the board. And we said a 9-6 half was necessary for Sprout to have a decent chance. Well, I think we kind of meant it the other way around.
Yeah, we kind of meant it the other way around, possibly. One thing I want to point out here is once more the flashbang usage of Big Clan, which, by the way, in the competitive scene, in the entire top 100 competitive scene, are the second best team when it comes down to flash assists. Mastermind Gob once more strikes when it comes down to utility. And so, this is giving them a little bit of the edge. We just saw it on the advanced stats of the scoreboard. It's not looking too good in that sense. Of course, on the T side, you're more likely to use flashes because you are doing the executes. Either way, Sprout might live with the fact, and they might need to learn to live with the fact that their opponent on the terrorist side, on the aggressor's faction, are going to get double digits, and that's uncomfortable.
And there's still a possibility to stop them, but we're still talking about a 9-6 half most likely at best, which is pretty difficult to come back from, especially against a team of this caliber that has the likes of Xantares fragging like crazy. But the thing is, when they swap over, it'll be a little bit more difficult for him to get that impact. But then again, you take into consideration the player that's had the most impact for Sprout is Searson, but they've been on exit kills after Big Clan have basically already won the round. Oh, we complimented them before avoiding the nades on the low buy rounds from Sprout. This time, though, it doesn't quite go their way, as Xantares is the man actually being taken down.
Well, Dirk Nowitzki has sent all his power to Sprout in that situation. So quickly finding another kill, it gets a little uncomfortable because those are 2 weapons now in the hands of Sprout. We talked about it a million times. Big Clan once more trying to save up money with not really being able to do so. Sproutlings, though, with the right and intelligent move to keep this tight in your warm hands, not let it slip away. Those AKs, valuable little tools in the last 2 rounds. And more exit frags would be even more brilliant. But a 9-4 seems inevitable by now, and well, you gotta get yourself a warm sweater, Sprout. Cold times are coming up ahead of you in case this is all gonna be swapped over to them on the T side.
Oh no, how does
no.
Keto get that? That's the op as well. If he gets out of there with that, this is such a great round for Sprout. Because it gives them so much more of a better buffer as they move forward.
Right.
We talk about their economy kind of being a little bit low, they had to take the eco there, but now, as they come into this round with 3 weapons already bought up, they can get themselves armor, they can get themselves utility, and if they lose this round and it goes 10-4, at least they'll still have some cash to invest into better weapons for the next round. It's a really small upside. Realistically, if they lose this round, double digits for big, that would just be devastating for them, especially if they then reach 11. As if they win, this is the hardest round out of the next two. You know, so if they win this, it's likely to be 11. So Sprout really need this, or else the map is pretty much gone in the trash can already.
Well, Sproutlings tend to grow when they rain, or more likely when it rains, and now they rain down on to Centaurus. First frag found by Keto, his aggressiveness finally being rewarded with a kill, but Big, in the meantime, saying, oh, well, this A long seems quite clear. Why don't we go there? And obviously, they have done that by now. Should hear the steps of the players coming over short. Searson peeking wide with Keto. Rather says, nah, not too interested in it. He's going wide, finds one, though he's blind. And Gob instantly did with the refrag, but you might need to readjust those plans, because Sprout, they're no 100% ready and focused on this A site.
It's a better round for them for sure. Keto has been playing really well when he's been given those opportunities. Gobby swinging around though, takes down Spitty to put it into a 3v3, a situation for Big Clan now looking much better, but they're still looking to commit towards that A bomb site. Maybe not having the information on how many players are still here. Searson's lurking in on the AWP. He's up close and personal, but the trade goes through at least. Through the smoke, though, Murbit's able to find one, and it's all down to Gobby, the IGL, but he performs in these clutch situations.
Take a look at it. Oh, he sees him! Just a bit of the head, a bit of reflectorn of that helmet that has been spotted. Gob already on the triple. He wants the quad, and he's gonna get it. The brain himself strikes on them, and Big is now there with those double digits, 12k, as Gobby does his best impression of Warren Buffett, and is gonna even give some gifts to Dennis, his team. Just right now, sitting on the throne, laughing at those peasants from Sprout as they are not able to do anything anymore.
So at least they're able to get the weapons out, though. The extra little bit of cash has afforded them the AWP, the 2 AUGs. But, I mean, one thing we talk about from Gobby on a consistent basis is the fact that, sure, he might not have the most impact coming into a lot of games when you're talking early to mid-round. Obviously, IGL-wise he does, but in terms of fragging power. But when he's left in a clutch situation and he only has to worry about himself, he's not thinking about the whole team and how everyone else is playing, he's insane. He's such a good player. And the IGLing really does take his toll on him in a way. This is dangerous, though, the push coming through onto Zantara. The flash is perfect from Favin, supporting a Spitty aggressive forward, and an opening duel again goes to Sprout, but we've seen it pulled back before by Big.
So, talking about Gob, you would most likely not put him into the high fragging department. In this matchup, he really shows us a few decent kills, and this puts his team in a quite good situation. Funny-wise, both Dennis and TCN at the bottom of the scoreboard talking about him whiffs the shot against Murbit. His ex-teammate capitalizes on it. Keto does the same, but instantly punished. Yet again, we're still talking about a man advantage for Sprout. Capitalizing on it is a different sort of question, because Tapson slowly moves around, should get that kill, and yet in the end falls down. He struggles, he's failing, and Big now once more can only rely on one person. It's TCN in this one.
A 1 versus 3 for him. It's not ideal. Sprout may have claimed themselves at least a 5th on the board. Even at that, Big Clan have had a phenomenal half. But this one more would certainly hammer home the point that they're the superior team. Dropping down without making noise, closing in the distance. Spitty's up close and personal. He's got that AUG in hand, so it's a difficult fight for Tizian to win with so little time.
And He's pushing through, instantly eliminated. Still, we're talking about a 10-5, and that is more than brilliant. 10-5 is pretty much everything you are looking for right here. And as we see, quickly mentioning the scoreboard, Xantares over there on the big side, getting the big time frags in. Funny-wise, only the second best player regarding the score points, it is actually Gob up there, as he had so many important impact situations. Dennis struggling with the op is not the best thing to see, but on the other side, it could be very much that he as a passive, as he as a defending op, is able to obtain much more kills and get them in a way better state. We're going to see that right now. The pistol round starts with Gob having the utility, no kid, and big overall, more B-focused.
You know what the most surprising thing in this situation is, actually? Just as I'm looking at it, Big Clan have found 5 opening duels. We talked about the fact that they pull back like 14 to 15% of rounds where they receive the opening death, and yet, despite the fact that they've received the opening death 10 times, they've been able to pull back into rounds. And again, it feeds into what we were talking about before this. Yes, they have a 0% win rate on this map, but it's against really good teams, and usually a pretty close matchup if we ignore that 16-6 loss to North. So yeah, like Big Clan having a really good game here. The fact that they're playing from behind really well, Tabson jumping up. I mean, I could just feel it. I could feel the headshot coming in just to really hammer home the point. The Sprout.
And Big actually being not the best of a pistol team, don't even win every second pistol round. It might be this one where it becomes a little more sinister for them. Either way, Sprout definitely approaching the A side. Big seems to have an understanding, and Sirison taps away Gob with ease. No problem seems to occur for Sprout, just running them over big time. That bomb is going to come in anytime soon, and Xantares wants to show what he's made of. Looks for Speedy as well. He's not going to take him down. Finally does that. Actually, through Murbit, another headshot could come in for the P2000, and Big turns this around with only Tizian and Xantares alive. Extremely odd how Sprout lost a 2v4 when the bomb was already hitting the ground. But there they profit from it. Big, they might just run away with a victory right here.
Yeah, well, on 11-5, it'd be hard to throw this one away, really. It's their map pick, so it's nice to see them come in with a little bit of confidence. And the fact that they're having those individuals step it up, I mean, Xantares goes without saying, but even Gob being, Gobby being a little bit unexpected, I suppose, while he won out that 4K clutch. Tabson as well up there. I suppose he's a player you expect to see doing pretty well. As you move over to Mirage, a little bit more of an individually centered map in general. I think it's going to stand to them. The fact that, yeah, Searson's got 15 kills on the board, but again, in terms of early to mid round, he hasn't been doing a whole lot. Opening picks have gone his way, I think, 3 times, but we said that around the first 5 or 6 rounds, and yet that's still the case. When the offers come out more frequently, he hasn't been able to open up the rounds, and that's a bit of a flag for me.
No, I see where you're coming from. We actually talked about Sirson before the game a little bit. Now, I mean, he's the best player right now actually in this matchup from the last 3 months of the HLTV rating. Yet again, we talked about it, they're playing in 2 different leagues. Though Sprout is emerging more in the right direction, and they're trying to enter the upper tier 2 echelon anytime soon. You couldn't call this matchup so consummate for them. Mirage, by the way, would be our next map pick. We're going to talk about that a little later. In the meantime, Gob proves us that he got his personal X-ray on, turning on those glasses, and realizes, well, gonna take down a young Joseph Bauman. The 12-5 seems somewhat inevitable, except Free Deagles showing us something magic.
Dennis coming in with 2, though. Gobby finishes it off to close it 12-5 in a round for Sprout that they didn't expect to get too much done in, but I think they were at least hoping to get a bomb plant down. And Big have invested into 3 SMGs, which means they can't even afford to get full rifles out, at least the stronger rifles like the AUGs and the M4s. So they have to play this as a bit of a bonus round. Well, they don't have to, but they decide to. And I think it's the right call not to eat into your economy anymore. Like Dennis could upgrade to an M4 or an AUG. But it's the right call. You leave yourselves a pretty good chance at winning out this round. And if you lose, as long as you get a couple of kills, Sprout will still have low economy. And you can get yourself full utility, AUGs, everything you want into the next one. So it's not a bad decision from Big in all, but you do expect to see them having a little bit of a harder time in this round with those 3 MP9s combined with the FAMAS up against 4 AKs and an AWP.
No, I fully agree. I really fully agree on that. And as we see right here, slow approach from Sprout. As Gob in this situation tries to jump peek as much as possible. He has no clue how close Faven is. Under no circumstance he knows how close Faven is. Does he find him though? In combination with taps, and it works. And suddenly the early aggression denied. The utility thrown all the way around the A site. And back in toilets they wait. Mervin and his crew once more reconsidering what their actual game plan is. But their time is certainly ticking a bit lower and lower and lower. So they're running somewhat out of options, and if Tapson and his crew are once more reigning supreme, I see nothing really happening in favor of Sprout right now.
With 3 players towards the A-bomb side, it is going to be hard. The utility going down to stop that push. It actually splits Spitty. Oh. He's completely isolated towards the site. No. The spam from Tapson. What do you do against that? It's all on Searson. AWP in hand. And again, a situation where saving the AWP isn't ideal because he won't have any cash for the next round. Catches Dennis, but 10 seconds left. They can actually kill him after time. They're wrapping around through long. This is going to be a really hard position for him to save this weapon over. And if he dies now, that is the final nail in the coffin for Sprout, really. 0 seconds. Here comes the peak.
No.
He doesn't hit the shot. That's cost him everything. Like, even into this round, they would have had to force buy with him saving that AWP over because he'd have no cash for future rounds. So I would have preferred to see him just run in and die there.
Yeah.
But going for the save and then missing that all-important shot, that is it pretty much. Their economy's in tatters. Big Clan are 3 away from winning. That's rough.
Yeah, it is rough. I mean, it feels actually Big as the ride in their opponent a little bit. As they all coalesce into one big unit. And Overpass seems to be a bit like a centrifuge, separating the good from the bad. As we pretty much know with certitude, a chapter closed. It should be a chapter closed. Sprout most likely will play this one disciplined, as though Mermit goes for the buy with the armor, and the Deagle not going for any more utility. 1.6 at this point in time is to be compensated. Nevertheless, you might want to put a check mark after Overpass. Say, alright, I accept this one. Mirage is where we feel a bit more comfortable.
Well, we'd hope so. We hope Sprout feel more comfortable there, but to be honest, at this point, really what I was looking for in this map was a massive amount of individuality coming through from Sprout.
Yeah.
We wanted to see a lot from them, and that just hasn't come through to the extent that I would now feel comfortable saying that they've got a good chance at taking Mirage versus Big Clan. Because Big Clan currently are looking on far better form as a team, obviously, but also as individuals from what we've seen so far.
And as we're seeing right there, over on the A site, all going to be taken down. No real issue occurring. The pistols, funny-wise, on the side of Big are now doing the job. And here comes the buy, and this is like the final chance for clearance. This is the final chance of turning things around and letting Sprout once more feel that what they actually can do, the power they actually have. And either way, it is Big Clan just feel very much in the driver's seat, going sideways all the way, and Sprout there on the back row, throwing around with no seatbelt on. It is extremely uncomfortable, and it probably won't go any better by now. The op in the hands of Sirson, and this is brutally going towards the playground already. Can Dennis deny them, though, is the big question. Oh no. Timing.
It's terrible. There's nothing you can do about that, really, bailing out of there. Well, you could not run away, I guess. But he's conscious of them having full connector control, maybe being able to rotate up there and split him. So it makes sense that he is quickly bailing out. But 14-5, I mean, Big, sure, they're one man behind, and we don't usually see them play too well from this kind of position. But Spread so far have been making a lot of mistakes. So in this round, they're still very spread out after finding that opening duel. They need to make sure any fights that they take from this point forward 100% have to be traded out. Searson with the ops actually going to catch tabseN off on long. And this is looking like it could be the round that goes the way of Sprout unless huge individual plays come through.
Yeah, it depends a lot on the meeting of Speedy and Gop, but they're not having any meet and greet yet. Patience is once more a pivotal aspect, and what's the smoke intended, I'm asking myself? Doesn't necessarily look like it. Either way, Faven is going to move through. And on the A side it goes. Gop got to be extremely cautious about the young gun approaching the side anytime soon. He rotates back behind Truck and is safe for the second. As no Mervin is spotted, now Gop could ask for the support. Now Gop most definitely asks for the support, and he's praying to the Lord that he's going to stay alive for another second or two. Knows about the ball plant, nearly catches Keto. It's too close for comfort, and yet again, Gop in trouble, and Gop to be taken out. TCN and Xantares are in a 2 versus 4 that seems not to be retrievable, and in case TCN falls down anytime soon, the story might have been told to his left-hand side. Keto's taking him out.
Taken out and deleted. At least 14-6. The potential for the comeback is there. 10 rounds in a row for Sprout. It's not without possibility. I gotta ask, Sash, do you believe in Sprout taking this? Do you believe in 10 rounds in a row for a regulation victory?
Do you have to put me under pressure here, Mitch?
Of course.
So, from a statistic point of view, Sprout have a 0.0% chance to win this, and a 1.9 chance for OT. I mean, there's probably 0.000 something. Either way, Big are looking extremely good nevertheless, though they have lost this round. Dennis with what a shot against Faven. Seemed like he was stuck mid-air and then rips his head off. Sprout with the man disadvantage most likely will not really enjoy the situation, but Big would need to do major flaws and mistake to now collapse.
If this was the CT side for Sprout starting now, you could say maybe they'd have a chance, but the fact that Big are on the favored side, a side that they're more comfortable on by the looks of things up against some of the weaker teams, and with the man advantage in play, okay, low HP on Tizian and Taps, and I'll give them that, so somewhat of an opportunity. But it should be an easy cleanup, especially with that op in play. It's on Dennis. This is the kind of point where I'd rather see him give it over to tabseN, because of course tabseN's got an M4 and he can't really afford to take any fights at this point. But he is down towards B, so there'd be a lot to do to coordinate the swapping of those weapons. And I like tabseN's position as well. He's boosted up to watch the B push.
I don't know how you feel about this, Mitch, but I don't have high hopes, to say it like that.
I definitely don't either, especially not for this push. They're running right into 2 players. One's got an op. There's the shot. The other's tucked in on Truck, supporting any push forward. So Dennis is pretty comfortable, except for the close left. Gobby finds that kill, and it's all over. There's no way Searson does this with an op. He hasn't got time to kill both players, and he hasn't got any life left as a bullet rips through his chest. 15-6, and now definitely a 0.0% chance of Sprout pulling this back. And they have to go to overtime rather to do it, and that requires 9 consecutive rounds, which is I wouldn't say out of the question entirely, but with the way the Big are playing right now, out of the question entirely.
Yeah, out of the question entirely, indeed. It seems like an astute play from this henceforth is going to put Big onto a 16-6. It seems realistic, though I don't think Sprout are going to capitulate yet. Would be a bit of a brusque play, would expect now. A crowbar to the bank vault to open up something like the B side, where a few decent players are standing. To be accurate, TCN, Xantares, as well as tabseN. Those 3 going to show us that they're the ones with the Fleischwolf in hand to try to mix some German into this. And as we're talking about that, short aggression comes in. tabseN is ready with his M4A1S. Nobody isn't checking on him. Arcane, he stays. Doesn't even need to do a job. As well as he might be just taken out soon. tabseN seems without any orientation, then finds the short player, and tabseN just comes out of nowhere. The man is waiting in the shadows, and suddenly he strikes with only leaving a Speedy alive. And that is not the most ideal situation. Knocking on the back door. Gop says, how you doing, Speedy? And that is going to be a 16-6, Mitch. That brutal, I didn't expect it to be.
Dude, we were talking about this before the game. We're saying this is probably going to be a 3-map series, or definitely we could see the possibility for it. Now I'm starting to call that into question.
Yeah.
What I would say there was towards the end, when he was up close in the smoke, it was actually, he got hit like down to 31 HP. So I thought that they knew where he was. That was actually Xantares shooting him through the smoke, lighting him down. And yeah, a little bit of an awkward fight. If he had have had his HP, probably could have pulled off that third